We're going to move from this old house to brave new gardens right now. We're going to be talking about permaculture, a concept that I think you're going to be very interested in. I'm joined by Dick Pierce with the Austin Permaculture Guild. First off, welcome to Central Texas Gardener.
Well, thank you so much, Tom.
It's been
Pleasure.
a few years since I've talked about permaculture with anybody, and I want to start off with just the basics. Tell us what permaculture is.
Permaculture, if it were coined today instead of in the 70s when it was, by an Australian named Bill Mollison, it would sustainability and green. Really, but to give you just a quick definition, Mollison always called it is designing sustainable human settlements, primarily with the palette or template of nature in mind. Nature is the great designer. Observation of nature as to how you learn how to design, and design also means live. Right? You don't have to design something from scratch. It's how you live your daily life, and it's based on nature, and it's started out as permanent agriculture, which fits your program very well, and you could say that was sustainable agriculture.
Exactly.
It rapidly expanded to be permanent culture. And that would be sustainable culture, which is our buildings, our energy, our food, gardening, our exercise, and our health. All come under that umbrella now. But mainly, in what I think of sustainability is simply leaving things, having a bountiful, joyous life, but leaving things better than we found it.
Yeah, and when you reference this, and I think that's the perfect way, is to kind of look to nature to lead the way. And what this means in a garden context for permaculture is organic gardening techniques.
Correct.
A close attention to the cycles of the season, where the sun is in the sky, those kinds of questions. And it really is commonsensical to me. Are there basic tenets in relationship to permaculture in the garden that you try to stick to?
Yes, there are, and you just mentioned a few of those. One of the biggest things is to observe your local place. So probably the biggest single word in permaculture is local.
Of course,
and probably except for you and I, the only things ever written about Austin as a local area are very, very few. And most of the stuff that you would get from various places doesn't talk about our growing season. Central Texas doesn't talk about our soil, which is heavy clay and is alkaline, where most of the world is acid and sandy. We're sitting here at the start of a wonderful growing season that the rest of the world has no clue.
That's right.
The 14th of January, we should be planting onions. And in rapid succession, we should plant all our vegetables a lot in January and February and finish up in March, so that we can take advantage of the cooler weather and the nicer, less vicious sun, and kind of finish up in May. So a great deal of permaculture is observation of your local area. And the indigenous people have a simple word for it, that's to get to know your place.
Exactly.
And so a lot of it is just tuning up our observation skills, and we can supplement those with the Master Gardener planting guide, for instance, that will not only tell us when to plant, which starts in January, early January, and then but what to plant, so that we can have short enough growing season on our tomatoes and other vegetables that we can have a bountiful harvest by, say, the middle or end of May, when we all ought to be planning to put our gardens more or less to bed for the vicious summer that we have here.
Absolutely. Now, you tell me about the activities of the Guild, because I know that you have a wide range of opportunities for people to plug in to the activities.
Well, we have, thanks for asking that. We, first of all, start out with a very simple listserv, which is Austin Perm at yahoogroups.com. Very nice, simple, easy going chat room, a listserv that about 400 local, 400 or 500 local members. So that's really easy to get going on that, and then do that as much as you'd like. Then that we have for free, that starts up in the middle of January, is we have every Wednesday night we have a permaculture related talk, and it's called the Winter Series of Talks, which has now been going for 4 or 5 years. And we talk about a lot of areas of permaculture and food and housing and attitudes and even finances in a permaculture sense, natural sense. So it's really natural science and living kinder and more sustainably with our resources. That's on Wednesday nights, and is usually at Habitat Suites Hotel, which is a permaculture hotel.
That's great.
You can stop by and get a brochure that shows the 300 different features they've got in that hotel that are permaculture-like and energy saving. Then we're excited that January is here, and that's the start of the gardening season. It's really the kickoff of the 2009 permaculture season. And this year, for the first time, we're going to have, starting in January, on January 15th is the first homeschool class. We're going to run a semester-long class on Thursdays, permaculture design class for high school age homeschoolers. And we're going to run that in East Austin, and we're really excited about that.
And is this related to your Citizen Gardener program?
No, that's separate, and thank you for bringing it up, because
this
that's
sounds
an
like
exciting,
a wonderful concept.
The Citizen Gardener starts on 2 Saturday mornings, January 10th and January 17th, and we'll have an evening session in the middle. But we just get together and do it, because it's planting time, and we put up the beds, and we've just recently had a graduation of the first group of over 30 folks that have to do 10 hours. They do 10 hours of classroom time, which we give them, if they'll pledge 10 hours of volunteer time in the community. And it's just been marvelous to see what these people have done on their own, and just love gardening in Austin and have such a great time, where Austin gardening was daunting to them before, or it had never worked. And also to get involved with a lot of the nonprofits that do gardening effort in the community gardens around town, to work under a mentor for 10 hours, and some of the results have just been astounding, and it's been so much fun. And that's the 10th and the 17th, and that website is citizengardener.ning. I've never seen that before. ning.com.
Okay.
And that the enrollment information is on there, and it's a great class and great fun. And the idea of that is to work on getting everybody to work on increasing the local food supply in Austin.
Absolutely. And to me, that's an important growing concern, is food security, and making sure that we have access to fresh, locally produced produce. Now, I want to jump in here, thinking about the season ahead. How can permaculture, say you're talking to an average Austin gardener, how would adapting permaculture techniques into their spring garden help them with their harvest and what they could expect?
Well, one of permaculture's 12 or so design principles is small scale and intensive. And the Bible of that is simply the Travis Gardner Master Gardener book that will tell you what to plant and when and what variety. And then square foot gardening, or John Jevons' more complicated book, but I recommend just the square foot gardening, which is intensive planting. And keep it small. A 4x4 garden bed gives you 16 little plots to plant, in which, for instance, in one of those plots next week, you could put in 16 onions in a square foot, or 16 carrots. Right? The only thing is get piggy or tomatoes, which take a whole 4 square feet.
Right.
But then I put those in a bucket, and a big bucket, and then I can move them in and out of the sun and shade as I need to in Austin, because the tomatoes love the sun would love the sun this time of year, and would hate it come May. So one is to start small and plant intensively. And John Jevons maintains that, and you can double this if you want to, but that 100 to 200 square feet of garden is enough vegetables for a family of 4.
Right.
So you start small, right, and you plant intensively, and that's what we teach. So that's one. The other one is to do a lot of composting and mulching and have our ground covered so that we don't lose our precious moisture, and we don't have our vicious sun come down and evaporate the moisture or take away the organic material or carbon.
Real briefly, what's the next opportunity for people to plug in and attend a class?
Well, the class is the homeschooling in January. That's on our website. And also, we start a new design class on January 31st, the weekend of January 31st and February 1st, which is, and that will be a 10-day, 8-week course, and everybody does their own design, which is very exciting.
All right, very good. Well, I know people will want to look you up on the web, and I'm sure the website is up on the screen right now. People can check that out and visit you online. It's a great way to, as you indicated at the beginning of our conversation, to plug in and get going. But thank you so much, Dick, for being a part of Central Texas Gardener, and happy gardening this spring.
Well, we appreciate it. It's nice to be here at the start of the gardening season.
All right, thanks, Dick. And coming up next, it's our friend Skip Richter.